What I'm studying is how those people who don't have true control, but they are good connectors, how do their mentalities of systems change and transformation? How does that contribute to the types of innovations that emerge from these different programs, and specifically relating to bioeconomy? So like transitioning from fossil fuels to biofuels, to bio-based materials, and also food systems.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Elmér, and I'm with Researchers Desk, and you are?
Hi, my name is Valentina Nakic. I'm a PhD student at Chalmers University of Technology in Gothenburg in the Department of Technology Management and Economics. My research is on innovation policy here in Sweden, specifically in the realm of bioeconomy. And I'm here with Researchers Desk today.
You mentioned earlier when we talked you're interested in shame and climate.
Yes, it's something that I'm personally interested in, and I observe it becoming an increasing part of the conversation that my colleagues are having, and also increasingly part of the public discourse when it comes to climate change, because it's not enough to change technologies, it's not enough to change institutions. Behavioral change is also an important factor. And when it comes to changing people's behavior, there are different ways of going about it. And I find that shame is quite a blunt instrument. And in a lot of cases, it can do a lot more damage than good.
And why is that, do you think?
Because so first of all, you have to distinguish between shame and guilt. So shame is when you are associated with something that is deserving of social isolation or exclusion. Guilt is when you acknowledge responsibility or you take accountability for doing an act that is considered worthy of social exclusion. So people can feel shame over things that they don't control, but society deems worthy of shaming. Whereas with guilt, people know that they did something wrong. And it's closer to home. Now, the problem with shame is that it can make people respond in a recoiling kind of way. So when people are subject to shame, it's like when you burn your finger and a bubble immediately forms and liquid forms inside. What that bubble does is it's protecting the most sensitive, wounded part of your body and giving it space to heal. Now, when people are subject to shame, they will avoid and they will reject engagement. They will avoid responsibility. They will become less likely to cooperate. They will seek the familiar. And when it comes to mobilizing society, people across classes, people across ethnicities, religions, it's not a very unifying approach. And especially when shame is used bluntly, as I said before, if you don't offer a way out from shame, then people are stuck there in that hole. And when they get stuck there and they don't see any way out, they get caught in a very negative loop of self-talk. And then they get more and more isolated. And in some extreme cases, people become violent, or just in other cases, just feeling very jaded and cynical about the world. When people hear the word Flugskam, they bring different baggage to the word. So when, for instance, maybe you're here with the school strikers, and when you hear the word Flugskam, you are maybe thinking of, we just need to reduce our emissions. Flying right now accounts for 8 to 10% of global emissions, but only around 5 to 8% of the global population actually flies. If everybody flew to the degree that those who do fly do, it's completely unsustainable, and that would exceed our carbon budget by an obscene amount. And that's a more rational, technical way of looking at it. But other people, and I would say that I'm not immune to this either, they take it as it can be heartbreaking in some senses. For instance, I visit my family once a year. I see my family one time every year.
Where?
And they're in California.
Okay.
Yeah. My mother and father are there. And it can get very lonely sometimes. And knowing that I have the chance to see them every year, that gives me so much happiness. And for people to tell me not to fly, I think in a globalized world where the economic opportunities are unequally distributed and people have to go and leave their homes for these opportunities, to tell them not to fly is heartbreaking. And I'm one of the lucky ones. I can actually afford to fly and go see them. But other people, they see it as an insult to their lifestyle. They see it as threatening the way that they do things, and they feel very closely associated with that. It's easy to get caught up in. It's easy to get caught up in taking things personally.
So, yeah, in what ways would you say that this phenomenon is apparent in other examples than flygskam? Do you have any other good examples?
Yeah, there are different ways that you can experience shame. So you can feel like you're not doing enough as your neighbor. You can feel that you are not. You can feel that nothing that you do matters. Like it'll never be enough. For instance, there's also a large class element involved. Right now, pro-environmental behavior is relegated to the upper middle class and to bohemians or hipsters. And it's seen as flannel. I got you. And it's very alienating.
Yeah.
And people feel like they don't belong to a movement because they don't see themselves represented out there. But the truth of the matter is that, first of all, the ones who are least privileged in this world, they are the ones who are going to most direly experience the impacts of climate change. And moreover, there are people across ethnicity, across religion, age, political ideology, economic class, who care about climate change and who are taking action. You have conservatives in the United States. You have young girls in Thailand. There is literally every type of person in the world who cares about climate change, but you don't see this portrayed in the media. And the problem is there. Now it's twofold with the climate movement, because you both have representation and the science. Science suffers from a replicability crisis, which then climate deniers feed upon in order to foster doubt. And then the movement itself suffers what I call a relatability crisis. So it's really important to put forth these inclusive visions of who is involved in taking action. Because otherwise people are either going to feel like they can never be part of it and then reject it because they cannot be part of it. Or I think that's I'm losing my train of thought, so maybe we can move on.
I was thinking about this inclusivity and relatability thing, and I thought about Greta Thunberg and how she, I feel at least personally, has in a way opened up a door for lots of people who weren't taking action before to do that, because she is an XX individual. She is young and next to a child. She is neurologically, like me, atypical. And even though she is white and living in a Western country, she in many ways is a lot less privileged than the somewhat moldy old men that often conduct the climate research. And I think that that's a really interesting thing that I haven't actually paid much thought to before, that now at the large strikes you see groups of kids from kindergarten with the kindergarten teachers, and they would never have taken this call to act, or they never would have acted if there hadn't been this call to act. And I think that's a really interesting sociological phenomenon with this mob mentality that we have, that clicks in when you see lots of people doing something and all of a sudden it's status quo and everybody does it.
It's very fragile, and it's something that worries me sometimes. Like my background. My background coming from the former Yugoslavia, growing up, going to the United States as a refugee, and growing up in an ethnically mixed home. My parents always emphasized to me that you should never put your faith in one person, because one person, when people follow behind them, they can get ideological about it, and they can get dangerous sometimes. Now, with Greta, I think what Greta is doing is really great, and I love that the little kids are going to see her. It's like going to see Santa Claus, except you can go see her every Friday, which is even better. But I am wary of having an icon or a martyr or a hero, because people then resort more to mob mentality. So I think that it's important to have multiple voices in the conversation. But it's really great because she is very inclusive, and I noticed that when she goes to different events, she always brings in other people to share.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Do you have anything more you'd like to get across? Because otherwise, I think we're becoming short on time.
Okay.
So do you have anything else you'd like to get across?
I would say for the boomers, don't take things so personally. But I would also say for the very eager Gen Z, I'm a millennial, unfortunately. We're kind of the depressed ones who are trying to make sense of it all. But I would say for the Zoomers who have they have tremendous energy, and they are so, out of all the generations, they are so united around climate change. Shame is an attractive tool, and it can feel delicious sometimes to make someone feel less than you, but try to take the high road. And if you're ever going to actually subject someone to shame, always offer them a way out. Don't leave them in the hole. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.